Grandma and Grandpa Earl, I loved being at your house as a child. You had the haystack, the giant barn with the loft up above, the scary walk-in freezer in your garage, your spooky basement, of course the swimming pool, but my favorite was going in and getting handfuls of the treats for the horses and the mules, and then I'd climb up on the fence and coax them over along the fence line and ride them bareback. So grateful to be a part of this eternal family, and love you so much.
One of my favorite memories of visiting Grandma Earl is when I was over one day and she asked if I wanted a snack. And I said, yeah, for sure. And she made me spaghetti. And it was the funniest thing in the world to me.
One of my favorite memories about Grandma is all the times that we've gotten to play games with her at her house. I remember when we lived with her for a year and a half, in the evenings we would run to grab either dominoes or rummy cube. We'd sit down and play a game with her, and it was always one of the best parts of the day.
Grandma Earl, we love how you can always remember all of our names and know each one of us when you have a lot of great grandchildren.
We love you!
I love being an Earl because we know how to have fun. Fun. I love being an Earl because we go stones.
My favorite family memory of us is when we went to Albion and we had the dance party. I loved watching everybody come up and dance, including Grandma Earl.
One of my favorite memories, and still is always Grandma Earl asking about my family and how we're doing and how they're doing. She's always very thoughtful that way.
I love who I am because of where I come from. And where I come from is all due to my grandparents and the choices that they've made. I'm so grateful for them and love them. One of my favorite memories of Grandpa Earl is I had to pick him and Grandma Earl up at the airport once in Salt Lake, and I took them to a hotel that they were staying at. And as I gave him a hug goodbye, Grandpa reached over, pulled my shirt out, and stuffed a $20 bill down. Classic Grandpa.
One thing that I love about Grandma Earl is that she's taken the time to know all of her great-grandchildren's names, and that every time we see her, she comments about how old we've gotten, and she gives us a great big hug.
Hey, Grandma Earl. There's a million things I love about you, but one I can think of specifically is watching BYU football games with you. Back to Harleen.
One of the many things I love about you is you're so sweet and you make the best rolls.
Grandma, I love you so much. I love that you still call me Kimmy. You are one of the only people that still do. And I love so much and treasure the time that Aaron and I got to live so close to you and spend time playing games and hanging out. And even the time when my mom was living next to you, we'd come to visit. We get to stay at your house. We just love and treasure those times so much. We love you and are so proud to be your grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Okay, so right out of the gate, there's this big bonding moment between myself and Mom as she saved me from being named Jeb. Told Ken, Grandpa, you can name your dog Jeb, but not my son. If I think of one word, and I try to think of one word to describe Mom, Grandma, I would have to say obedience. She's always been straight on. You know exactly where she's at. She created this expectation of you. You knew what she expected, but both her and Dad gave you room to operate. And it was that sense of not wanting to disappoint or to let them down that helped you make good decisions. So that was something that was very inspiring and helpful throughout my life. She also is so inviting. There's so many people that both her and Dad influence for good, so accepting of people, inviting them in, so hospitable. She has that, I don't know if Roylance or Earl blood, maybe it's a combination of both, but it's just at a minute's notice, it's a party and she's all in. That's a great way to live. Love you, Mom.
One of my favorite memories of Grandma is me and Kylie were probably about 18 and 20. We went to her and asked her if she could teach us how to make her little butter cookies, the sugar cookies, the ones that are frosted, when she brings them to family gatherings and they're gone after like 2 seconds because you can't stop eating them. And she agreed, so we went over to her house, and then she kept like second guessing us, like, are you sure you want to learn how to make those cookies? And we're like, yeah, Grandma, you know the sugar cookies that you make. She's like, I don't even really, like, she was almost like she didn't know what we were talking about. We're like, you make them all the time. She's like, okay, I guess we'll make them. And of course it's Grandma, so she's just throwing ingredients in as she goes. She's like, it's about this much, this much. She makes the cookies. We still don't really know how to make them. And then she's like, and should I put icing on? We're like, yeah, teach us how to make the icing. She's like, oh, it's just icing. You just make the icing. We're like, well, Grandma, we don't know how to make icing. That's why we're here. So of course she makes them all. And to this day, neither of us know how to make the cookies as good as Grandma, but we had such a fun time. It's always a fun time with Grandma, even though we didn't learn how to make her cookies.
Here we are. It's July 25th, Saturday, here with Kiana. Kiana, how old are you?
I am 11.
And how's your day going?
Pretty good.
Good. Tell us, what are you going to tell us? What's your memory about Grandma?
My favorite memory of Grandma was when I was staying at her house. She wanted to show me that she saw me in the newspaper that I was in, and she was so proud of me, and she cut it out for me, and it made me really happy. And to this day, it's still hanging on the fridge.
The very first time I met Ken and Ludine was right after Pat and I were engaged, and they were over in Idaho Falls, and Ken was the temple president, or the visitor center president there. And so we drove, and, you know, I was really nervous. This is their baby getting married. He's finally getting married, you know, and they just made me feel so loved and, you know, gave me a big hug and so accepted into the family just from the first second I met them. I've always been grateful for that. And every time I see them or saw them, they had a huge smile on their face. And Ken would always, when he hugged anybody, I'm pretty sure it was everybody, he would say, I love you. And I just am so grateful for the love that I've felt from you both.
One of the stories that I've come up with is growing up, we had primary during the week. And so we would walk from the school to the church. And so we'd go by Frank's Market, get some candy, and then we'd come around the corner, and as we were walking towards the church area, we would listen. We would just listen for noises. And the noises we were listening for was my mom's yelling at a softball game, because then we'd know we'd have a ride home. And her voice carried very well, and so that was a memory, and it was just really a really cool thing. And so then we fast forward a few years. I'm at BYU. I get done with my mission. I get talked into trying out for the football team, and so I did. And I didn't tell anybody until I had made it. And so before the season, there's a blue-white game, they call it. It's a big scrimmage, and it's a big deal. And so people come and watch it. And I thought that Mom and Dad were going to come, but I wasn't sure. And the game starts. There's about 3,000, maybe 3,500 people in the stands. And as the game was going on, eventually I was able to get in, and I heard my mom in the crowd, and that was really, really cool. My mom and dad have always been supportive and always been there for me, and I love them dearly. And I'm going to cry, so I'm going to stop. I love you, Mother.
Hi, Mom. It's been such a great blessing to be able to call you Mom all of these 42 plus years. One of the things that I love about you is that you are a true party girl. You love having people come to your house and visit. You love cheering for sports or playing games in your kitchen table. I love that when people leave, they have left with something good to eat in their bellies, a really great visit, and a fun time. Another thing I love about you is that you are sure of who you are. You are brave, you are strong, and you are devoted in what you believe. One of my favorite moments with you is when you pray. I love the reverence that you have in the tone of your voice and the words that you say, and I always feel like I'm just stepping into the presence of God when you pray. It's been a fun ride, and I love you with all of my heart.
Grandma was babysitting us one time. We came home from school and she asked us if we were hungry. We said we were. She asked us what we wanted. We wanted Gushers, obviously. And she said, okay, but before you have your Gushers, you have to eat what I make you. Grandma then proceeded to make us a full salad, a full thing of macaroni and cheese, and some bread. Then we can have our Gushers. The next day we got smarter and we took a pack of Gushers before school and hid it under our pillows. So when we came home the next day, Grandma said, "Are you hungry?" We said, "Nope." So thank you for always feeding me, Grandma. Sorry I wasn't always appreciative. I love you.
When I think of Grandma, I think of stealing food, swimming in her pool, picking her raspberries, and trying to stay out of trouble, because Grandma always meant business. One time I asked Grandma for a bit of advice about health and fitness, because she always was in such good shape. I asked her what she did, but she was unwilling to give me fitness advice and instead gave me the advice that she wanted me to have, which was that I should read the Book of Mormon every day. Thank you, Grandma, for that advice. Mostly, however, thank you, Grandma, for showing me what family is supposed to look like.
We love you, Grandma Earl!
One thing I always appreciate about Mom is that no matter how hard things got, she'd always listen to what you had to say and be able to give you some advice. And what you did with it was up to you. My favorite memory, our girls at our time together when the guys were gone. Canning peaches and just being girls.
One of my biggest dreams is to go cross country in an RV, and that totally comes from Grandpa. I love the fact that he always had an RV. I love the fact that he enjoyed being fed as he drove, because so do I. I remember one time when we were kids, we went down to Utah with him and Grandma to visit Pat at BYU, and it was one of the funnest road trips I've ever been on. And it's one of my fondest memories, playing games and hanging out with them and seeing the wonderful scenery, and I just loved it.
The thing that I like about great-great-great-grandma is that we get to swim in her house, and she's a part of our family. She makes great scones, and I love her.
We love you, Grandma!
I love Grandma because she always shows people how much she loves them.
I love Grandma because she always puts a smile on my face.
As the first member of Earl Asia, I've always loved going over to Grandma's house over the years. I love how she not only shows how much she loves us, and she tells us and she looks us straight in the eye and says how much she loves us, but she's always interested in our lives, and she tries to get to know each and every one of us individually, and she's the exact type of grandma I want to be someday to my own kids.
My grandma's the best. She is a great example. She always does the right thing. She works harder than any of us, and she married my hero, Grandpa. And her scones are the best. I love them.
You sure do like the scones.
Hi, Grandma. We're traveling in Oregon right now, so I don't have Joey with me or Jack. And Tyson, of course, is on his mission in Colorado Springs, but we just wanted to get together and let you know how much we love you. Some of the things that we really love about you are... Fiona?
Going down the huge slip and slide at the family reunion.
You have great genetics, and I'm thankful for that, so that we can all be super good looking.
Willie, what do you love about Grandma?
And you have good hugs.
Good hugs.
I'm thankful for how you're such a hard worker.
Yeah, Grandma, I just want to tell you I had a wonderful childhood. It was so fun to live in the same town with you and Grandpa and to get to see you in action. Your love for your family and your love for the gospel is truly awe-inspiring and has helped me become the person that I am. I just love you so much, and the way that you love us so fiercely is very inspiring. We love you.
Bye. Bye.
Hey Grandma, it's Mitch and new little Ruby. Sorry I couldn't make it. Just want to tell you I've been making your bread through quarantine. So she'll be growing up on the same bread that I did, and scones. So I'll let you know. Love you. Bye.
Okay, in 3rd grade we did a report on our grandparents, and I had to interview Grandma and Grandpa and then make a PowerPoint to present to them one night when they came to the school. And I got real fancy with the fonts, so when I put in my floppy disk to give my PowerPoint presentation, it was unreadable and it was just a bunch of symbols and gobbledygook. And so I couldn't present, and I was so mortified. It was in front of my grandparents, who I respect so much, and I just remember walking back to them, and they were beaming at me like they had no idea what had happened, and probably they didn't, but I felt like $1 million, and so my through-the-roof self-esteem is probably all their fault. And I love you, Grandma, and I'm so glad we get to be here to celebrate with you.
So, every day of December, we would go and deliver presents to Grandma Earl's porch, and there was this one time that it was really funny. So we were walking up there. It was pretty scary, honestly. Like, we could see Grandma just sitting there in her living room, and we had to like sneak up, turn off our headlights, and we just left the present there. And she came out a little faster than usual, so we were trying to find a place to hide. And so we just go behind that bush. Everybody knows that bush. You know that bush, what bush I'm talking about. And we were just hiding behind there. And she comes out, like, she was getting courageous by this time. And she comes out and she peeks around the corner, but she didn't see us. And she's just yelling, like, "Who goes there?" And we're just like trying not to laugh. Then we left. And then she found out that it was us by the end of it, because my dad didn't want to lie about it. And we were the only cousins in town. So, yeah. But yeah, it was fun. We love you, Grandma. I love you.
I'm still looking for the definitive definition of hell's bells and little fishes. Nobody has told me yet really what that means, but I heard Mom say that a lot. 2 really great memories of Mom. I used to say things and then run, and I really couldn't outrun her, and I was the fastest guy in my high school. It wasn't until literally junior high that I could outrun her. She was a state track sprint champion, and man, that lady could fly. The other really fun memory I have of Mom and Dad is he always got his cuddle in the morning. Never left without a kiss. And it was just really an endearing thing to watch. He'd give her a little tug and a kiss before he left. Mom, we love you, and it's really wonderful to be here.
Thanks so much for being such the wonderful person that you are and such a fine example to me. We really appreciate it. We love you.
My favorite memory of Grandpa was walking into the living room, and he'd be sitting in his recliner, and he'd pull you in for a big hug and then kiss your face and pull you back and look at you and tell you he loved you and then kiss you again. He always made you feel so loved. And then what I have loved about Grandma is as I've started raising my own family, she's always made me feel like she is like my biggest cheerleader and my #1 fan, and like she's genuinely so proud of me. There's just so much love and adoration from her, and that's like one of the best feelings in the world. And I never appreciated it when I was younger, but I think I'm one of the few grandchildren that share her name, and I love that now. I feel like I get to have that as a little reminder throughout my life of the woman that I would love to be like and emulate. So we love you, Grandma.
Hi, Great Grandma. I really miss you, and I remember all the times when we went to feed the horses and swimming in your pool, and yeah, I love you.
One of my most special memories of Grandma is getting to be with her in their camper while my parents were in the MTC, and I just remember sitting on her lap and just thinking how much I loved my grandparents.
Mine was when I went to your house and got to know you better.
My favorite memory is that family reunion where we all wore shirts of her and we all had so much fun.
I think one of my favorite traits about Ken and Ludine that I admire so much in them is their ability to love. so many people and so unconditionally. I remember one time when they were in Utah and invited me to come visit with them, and while David was on his mission, and we were sitting in the motorhome, and I was just talking with Ladine. We were just, you know, visiting, and she just stops and says, "Do you like dates?" And I'm sitting there thinking, I go, "What?" She goes, "Do you like dates?" And I was like, things are flashing through my mind. Like, is she asking me, am I dating? Is she asking me, am I going to wait for her son? Is she asking me, like, in a flash, I'm thinking, what is she asking me here? And then she reached over and pulled open a cabinet and pulled out a bag of dates. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess I like dates. And to me, that just shows, like, there's really never any kind of pretense. I feel like with Grandma, it's very black and white. But she just loves. They just love so many people. They've always loved me so unconditionally, and it has been really such a light in my life that I really appreciate.
Hey, good grandma, I love you, and I love coming to your house, and you make the best scones, and you have the best pool.
Some of our favorite memories of grandma are
beating her in dominoes, swimming in her pool,
eating scones,
losing to grandma at dominoes.
When I was in high school, I stopped by one time right when they were about to have lunch, and they invited me in, and Grandpa sat down and said the most beautiful prayer. He said, "I'm so grateful for my sweetheart for making me this meal," and it just made me so happy how loving they were to each other and kind. We love you, Grandma!
When I was 12, I got to go on the Pioneer Trek with the state, and it was really strict. We had to wear Pioneer clothes. We couldn't have deodorant or toothpaste or anything they wouldn't have. And so it was pretty hard. Grandpa was a stake leader, and I remember he was kind of just wandered around camp, and one day he was over on the side and he saw me, and he kind of used a really gruff voice. He said, "Casey, come here." And I thought, what did I do? What did I do? Couldn't think of anything I did wrong, and I hustled over to him, and I kind of stood there, and he said, "Do you have any pockets?" And I pulled open my little apron pocket, and he poured peanut M&Ms in there, which was the only sugar we'd had in like 3 days. And I just looked up, and he gave me the biggest smile. And that is the face I think of Grandpa every time I think about it.
I just remember going over to Grandma and Grandpa's house and just they always fed me, Grandma always fed me, and then we always went swimming, and they just always let me do whatever I wanted. So I must have been a pretty good kid.
My favorite thing about Grandma and Grandpa is their love story. I share it about like 10 times a month to everybody.
One of my favorite things that Grandma has said to me is right after John left on his mission, I was like super sad, and I was around her for some reason and told her that, and she said, "Well, you know what they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder for someone else."
And I'm just really grateful that Grandma's always super welcoming to people being over at her house, because that was one of the first times I met my wife, Kelsey, was at a family gathering at Grandma Earl's house.
I love Great Grandma Earl because she's awesome, and Jameson is awesome, and Mom is awesome.
Hi, Grandma. My favorite thing about you is your amazing capacity to love. 18 years ago, Colin showed up with me, and ever since then, you've treated me just like any other grandkid and loved me, and I could never thank you enough for that. And you've been an amazing grandma to me and to my kids, so I love you.
Hey, Grandma. My family wants to send a message to you today. We're obviously here at your house already. Since we've gotten here, Grandma has offered to sleep on the couch so that our family could sleep in her room. That's the type of grandma she's always been. Just a great person. We want to also note that we're filming this video in the off-limits room where we're not supposed to be, and where earlier we had a picnic lunch on the carpet. Just kidding about the picnic lunch. Anyway, we all wanted to say, we love you, Grandma.
I love you, Grandma. I love Grandma Franks for being so nice to me.
She makes the best snickerdoodles in the world. She makes tasty bread. Grandma always lets us go to her house and swim in her pool.
Gone.
Show us some members of everyone's names.
We love Grandma.
We love Grandma.
Hi, Grandma.
My latest and greatest memory of Grandma is when I woke up the morning when I came to Washington to swear in. Grandma had made me like a 3-course meal, raspberry jam, scones, and the whole 9 yard. I love you. I'm thankful for you. Here's to many more years. Love you, Grandma.
Hey Grandma, I just want to let you know that I love you so much and thank you for all the years of care and love and memories that I have now. I love you so much.
We love how Grandma always loves to join in with the dancing, whether it's at family reunions
or at our wedding.
Yep, and she jumps in there and dances, and she does her signature dance moves. Can you dance?
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 Nope.
Nope. Okay.
It's July 2020, and just want you to know, Mom, that I love you. My favorite stories go back to the fact that I almost never felt like I was being parented. Mom and Dad just basically let me do what I wanted to do. I would have to maybe tell them about it, run it by them, but it was never like I even thought to myself there was a possibility that I couldn't go do something. My favorite is when Mark Libbert and I had just turned 16 and it was coming on spring break, and I proposed to my parents that we take one of our cars and that Mark and I drive to Utah and go to spring conference for the church, but mostly to ski and enjoy the spring break. And my mom's first response was, "Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun." And Dad said, "Yeah, that sounds like it'll be fine." And no talk about how much it was going to cost or where we were going to stay or who was going to be driving or what car we were going to take. And off we went, one of my more memorable experiences. Probably the other thing, though, is that constantly, especially when I had a driver's license, I would bring people home to swim, to hang out, for lunch, different things. But it didn't matter when I brought them, who was there, whether it was 2 or 6. My mom was there ready to make us something to eat, to visit with us about our softball game, whatever we were up to, and she was always my best cheerleader.
Okay, Grandma and Grandpa, I love them so much. They are the most incredible examples, especially when it comes to spiritual matters. Grandma is the matriarch of matriarchs. I love hearing the stories about winning beauty contests or chasing down pigs or, being the fastest in her class. And I think it shaped a lot of who I am as an adult today.
Really? I love to cuddle with her and swim in her pool.
Oh, that's perfect.
I learned how to swim in her pool.
Some of my favorite memories of Grandma are when Mike was in law school, we would come over and stay at her house on the weekends, and she would make us yummy food, and she was just the best during those times, and she's someone that I really look up to in life.
I love you, Grandma. When are we going to see you again? Remy. I love you, Grandma. When am I going to see you again? Miss you. Love you. And River loves you too.
I love you, Grandma. I count it one of the greatest blessings to have grown up 5 minutes from you and Grandpa and aunts and uncles and cousins, and have you such an integral part of my life for my whole life, and show me so much about love and family. And I just want you to know how much I love you and what an honor it is to share a birthday with you. And we miss you and are so excited to see you soon.
I love Great Grandma Earl because she's super competitive, and I am too. And I love going to her house and swimming with all the cousins. And she loves all of us, and it makes me feel good.
What I like about Great Grandma is that she gives the best hugs, and she's really nice, and I like swimming in her pool.
So one of the many things I loved about Grandpa is when we would have family gatherings, he would always say right before we ate, "Take a little, leave a little. Eat what you take and give thanks for what you eat. Let us pray." This is something I have started doing with my own family in memory of Grandpa. And something I will always cherish about Grandma is every time I give her a hug, she'll grab onto my biceps and say, Boy, you're a husky young man. You always give Grandma the best hugs. Also, I'll never forget taking Grandma down the water slide at the age of 92. She is fearless, and that was an epic experience. Grandma is the definition of YOLO, so let's get it. Yeet!
I love you, Grandma, and I love you.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Hi, Grandma. One of the many things that I love most about you is that I cannot remember a time when I've heard you complain or have anything negative to say. When I ask you how you're doing or what's new with you, you always have something positive to say, and then you always immediately turn around and ask me how I'm doing, what's new in my life, how my family's doing, and what you can do to make me happier and to help me out. And I think that's so special that you spend so much time thinking about others and so little time thinking about yourself. It's such a good example, and it's one of the things that makes you so special, and I love that about you.
I love Great Grandma because she lets us swim at her house, and she makes the best food, and she said that I'm the most athletic grandchild, so that's a plus.
My favorite Grandpa Earl thing was when we'd be at family reunions and he'd get up on the table and he'd put his arms up and he'd say, "Everybody, shut up," and then he'd start the prayer. And I just thought that was always so funny. My favorite thing about Grandma is when anytime I played a sport or anything, she was so loud in the crowd. I could hear her over everybody cheering her heart out while Grandpa just kind of sat there kind of watching.
And one of my favorite things about living in Moses Lake is seeing my kids have a relationship with Grandma. And they're always so excited to go over there. And Emmy just wants to snuggle her and never wants to leave. So
I like eating your yummy food, and I won't stop hugging you. And you're the best grandma I ever wanted. And I love it when I can swim in your pool.
My favorite memory of Grandma is one time I spilt pen on the carpet. I was like 7 or 8 at the time, and instead of helping me do it, she gave me a rag and said, "You're gonna clean it out." So that's what I did. And then when I finished, she told me how much she loved me.
I love hugging my grandma, and I love swimming in a pool, and I love her skulls.
My favorite thing about Grandma Earl is watching BYU football games with her. She gets super intense, and she's on the edge of her seat the whole time. And every play, she's super crazy and freaked out about it. And then some of them were like, "Grandma, that was just a replay." And she's like, "I just can't tell the difference." We love Grandma.
We love you, Grandma, and we hope you're doing well. Yeah, we hope you're doing great.
We love you, Grandma Earl!
Grandma, I love you.
Grandma knows when you throw all your clothes and stuff into the closet to clean your room fast. There's absolutely no tricking Grandma. She knows. You have to hang your hangers in the closet the same way, just in case that there's a fire. So you can run in, grab all the hangers, and then run out with a big old handful of your clothes. You should always ask before accepting a dessert from Grandma, because it might just be a huge bowl of cottage cheese and maybe a couple pieces of peaches on top. A quote to live by is, "This too shall pass," because brighter days are always just around the corner. And lastly, no one loves you quite like Grandma.
I've not been in the family that long, but Grandma has been extremely welcoming, and I'm appreciative of that.
We love you, Grandma.
Love you.
And one of the things that I love about her so much is her strong testimony and what a great mother she is and a great grandmother. And she has always been a great example. She is such a hard worker. She can work any of us right under the table at any time. And she doesn't like to be served. She likes to do the serving. She wants to be of service all the time. And I really love that about her. And also, she's always never been critical of me. And I've got, reason to be critical. Go ahead.
Okay, so all I'm going to say in addition is we want to keep the tradition of this home alive for everybody, that you might find it a place where you can come and swim and be around and remember Mom and Dad. And we think it's a pleasure to be able to take care of her at this time. And we appreciate her and all of you. And thank you for coming to this reunion.
How much Nadine and I love you for you. How important you are in our lives. And what a great adventure it has been to rear our children, see them leave and find their loved ones, and then bring our grandchildren into the world, and to make our lives meaningful in that regard. I don't think a day goes by that I don't feel grateful to all of them, to every one of them. And as I look at each of you, I see great promise. Each of you will take diverse roads to your own destiny. But let me counsel each of you that no matter what road you take, what trail you choose to follow, that you will ever stay close to your Heavenly Father, that you will remember your prayers, that you will do all that you can to keep this same heritage alive and well. We wish each of you Godspeed. I want each of you to know that I continue to love your dear mother and grandmother. She is the choicest person that I've ever known. And I count my blessings every day that she is with me, that she loves me, that she supports me as I love and support her. If any of you ever wonder whether or not I love her, you've heard it from the horse's mouth that I do.